to Emmanuel Baptist Church. Please stand. We're going to go right into our singing tonight and go with Open the Eyes of My Heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. See you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. To see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. See you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. I want to see you. Amen. The next one we're going to do tonight, Trust and Obey, before Brother Angel comes up. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. rise. Not a cloud in the skies, but a smile quickly drives it away. Not a doubt or a fear, not a sign or a tear can abide while we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Then in fellowship sweet, we will sit at his feet, or we'll walk by his side in the way. What he says we will do, where he sends we will go. Never fear, only trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Awesome. You guys can be seated for this time as Brother Angel comes up.
There we go. Heyo. So, how's everyone doing? Awesome. I'm doing good. So, I'm doing really good, actually. So, this has nothing to do with my message, but part of why I'm feeling so good is, so Kim and Polly have been doing their workouts, right? These 21-day fixes. And so, as Kim would work out at the house, I'd just sit on the couch and I'd eat cookies. And I'd watch her work out, like, your form is all wrong. You know, your form, like, hey, flatten your back. Listen to her. Flatten your back. So then she called me to the carpet. And so I'm just like, I can do this. This is nothing. I was an elite athlete in high school. Like 15 years ago, maybe longer. Oh, my word. I don't even like to think about that. But so I've been doing this, and the first day, I'm just going to tell you, like, well, not really the first day, but the day after was absolutely horrible. Like, your whole body hurts. You're like, your muscles that you didn't even know that you had hurt. And so, but I've been on it. I've been 3 weeks straight. I've only missed one day. It was this past Thursday because I worked really late. And, but I wake her up early Sunday morning. Hey, let's go. She's just like, oh, my word. And so I'm in it, but I'm feeling good. You know, I got my, not that I need to drop weight, but I'm feeling good. And so, and then, for whatever reason, me and Kyle were at work, and we're at lunch, and we just started talking about coffee, and I'm like, I drink like, 3 or 4 coffees a day, and I'm just like, I could drink one before bed and still go to bed, and he's like, yeah, no, because Kyle, he'll have like 2 sips in the morning, and then like a light switch goes on, and this kid's ready to go. I'm just like, you can tell when Kyle doesn't have his coffee. I'm just like, I was like, maybe I just had so much coffee, so much caffeine, it's just in my body all the time. So I decided to go on a detox. So I just, cold turkey. Kim's like, are you going to substitute it with anything? I'm like, no, I can do this. Let me tell you, I don't get headaches, but that first day was torture. I'm like, Kyle, I may be an angry boss today. But it's been good. I did have a coffee this afternoon, though, because I was feeling lethargic, and I didn't want to be lethargic during service. So anyways, that has nothing to do with my message. I just feel I should share that with you guys. But, all right. But so tonight I want to talk about different types of junctions we have in our lives, right? And when you think about a junction, sometimes we think about crossroads, or we come to a point where a decision has to be made, right? And so we get to a point where some sort of decision needs to be made. And in some cases, we make the decision as we get there, assess whatever. And in other cases, we've already determined that when X, Y, and Z is going to happen, this is what I'm going to do, right? I've already purposed that this is what I'm going to do when I come up against this. And so, it's funny when we think about plans, right? When you make plans and your plans don't always go according to plan. And so, we went on a road trip this past couple weeks ago. What was it? February vacation. We took a drive down to Florida to visit my in-laws, and we went to some of the parks while we were there. And so we had it all planned out. I'm gonna get out of work early on Thursday. I think it was Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. I'm gonna get out of work early. I'm gonna sleep for a few hours, and then we're on the road at 7. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are on the road, 7 p.m. We're going, and we ain't stopping. And so I get stuck working late, and so I get home. I get to sleep for like 45 minutes, and I said, it's 7 o'clock. We're getting on the road. And so we get on the road, and that was kind of a bad decision on my part because I was tired. Ended up getting a ticket, too. It was bad, but we don't talk about that. But have you ever made plans like going on a road trip that just completely fell apart, right? Maybe you plan the perfect way to spend your weekend, right? The busyness of the kids is finally settled down, and you're just like, we're gonna have this weekend all planned out, just the fam, and we're just gonna relax and spend time with one another, and then it just kind of is like blah blah blah. Or maybe you're going to plan your New Year's resolution, and we all know how that goes. They go great. So, or maybe you're going to plan the most incredible birthday party for a friend or a family member, and again, nothing actually goes according to plan. I actually ruined a birthday party for someone one time. It was a surprise party, and I walked in, and they wasted the surprise on me. It was awesome. I remember that, But I'm sure we've all experienced situations where our plans took a sharp turn, and then we had to adjust, right? We had it all mapped out, and summer camp. Summer camp is a great example of this because Sarah and my wife drive me crazy with sticking to the schedule. And I try telling them the schedule is just a suggestion. That's not the Bible. Oh, Jen, look at Jen. So you're a schedule person, huh? Yeah. Oh, man. So me and Steven drive our wives crazy in this area. Just even Friday night, we were getting together to go over the rest of our schedule for the year, and me and Steven were like, yeah, we know what we're going to do. And they're taking notes. They got charts going, and I'm just like, man, we got this. Confidence is high. But sometimes it might be as simple as taking a wrong turn on a road trip, but other times it's going to be much, much bigger, right? Much, much bigger. And then there was a time in my life where I took a wrong turn, right? And so just to kind of give you some context as to where I was at, I was kind of a rotten kid, and my mom can attest to this. And so because of my actions, because of my attitude, and just thinking that I knew better, I ended up getting myself kicked out of the house. And in this time, I kind of rebelled, and I blamed my mom for everything, right? And so because I was 17 years old, I thought I knew better than my parents, right? And so during this time, I didn't even give my mom a ticket to my graduation so she could watch me graduate, right? She would give birthday presents to my sisters to me, and I wouldn't even accept them, right? So this is where I'm at in my life during this time, right? So I'm living on my own. I'm plumbing, and so I've got an apartment of my own. I've got a truck. I've got a motorcycle. I'm making money, and I'm thinking life is great. I got all these friends, and we're just living it up all the time. And so it was a hot summer day, and my sister's like, hey, can we go for a motorcycle ride? And I'm like, sure. Well, yeah, when I get out of work, we'll go. So I get out of work, the shop's in Merrimack, coming up the Everett Turnpike, windows down. I'm sure we got some Spanish music bumping, right? And so we're going. And so I'm getting off the Everett, and I'm going onto 293, and I'm going to go into the fast lane. And so naturally, I look to my blind side so I can see, And as I looked, my hand went with it, right? So I went like this, and next thing you know, I'm in the fast lane. I'm going about 55 miles an hour. Traffic in front of me is completely stopped. My pickup truck plows into the back of this minivan. And I'm not just talking like a little fender bender. I mean, the front of my pickup was in the second row of this minivan, right? And so my truck is here, airbag goes off. I'm pinned underneath the steering wheel of my pickup, and glasses everywhere. My transmission's popped through. I'm in so much pain because I just don't know what happened. I can touch the guardrail from inside my truck, and then there's the Merrimack River, right? And through all the craziness, I'm like, just kind of trying to gather myself. I can't move. I don't know what. I'm just in a lot of pain. I can't move, and then I hear my phone ringing. And so I somehow, I don't even know how, but I grabbed my phone, and it's my sister, asking me how long I'm going to be. And it's like, with all the energy I had, I told her I was in a bad accident. I don't know how bad it is, and but I told her, like, this is where I'm at. And so naturally, she calls my mom, she calls my dad. And so remember, I haven't seen my mom probably for like a year. I don't remember what it was, like a year, maybe a year and a half. And they drive on the other side of the highway, and they see the wreckage. And so here I am. I'm in the ER, and I'm all braced up, and my mom is there now. It's crazy how, unexpected turns can be painful, right? And so when life takes an unexpected turn, it can be extremely painful. And if you've ever been in a car with a driver that takes a really sharp turn, you can feel it. Sometimes I'll mess with my kids sometimes, and they'll whack their head or something. I'm just kidding. I don't drive like that. But seriously, when life gets painful, you might feel angry that life hasn't turned out the way you were hoping it would. All right? You might feel afraid of what's to come next. All right? Because I was afraid of what was about to happen next when another series of events after that accident happened. Depression, freaking out like I've never freaked out before, contemplating suicide, all these weird, crazy thoughts just kind of flooded me. I became a different person. You might feel helpless to change or survive the situation that you're in. And if you've been there, if you've ever been there, you're not alone. And so tonight I want to talk about a person who I think can really relate to what we're talking about tonight, and having different junctions, different turns in the roads, different sharp turns come their way. We're going to look at Moses. We're going to be in Exodus. And so if anyone understands what it's like to take one sharp turn after another, one sharp turn after another and another, it's Moses. Right? I mean, in Moses' life, he endured more pain, more fear, more uncertainty, more injustice than we probably can even imagine. And through him, I think God has a few things to teach us about how we can respond when life gets really difficult. But let me just tell you a little bit about Moses. So when Moses was born, he and all his people, the Hebrews, they were slaves in ancient Egypt. And it wasn't an easy life, but things grew even worse when the Pharaoh of Egypt, began to fear that the slaves would eventually develop into an army and rebel against them, because they were just, as a people, they were just growing. And so in response, Pharaoh, he demanded that every baby boy born of the slaves be killed, including Moses. Now that's a sharp turn right there. That's a sharp turn of events. But Moses' mother, right, she refused to let her baby die. She protected her young son from the Egyptian army by hiding him. And when it was clear that she could no longer safely keep him hidden, she put him in a basket. And she set the basket in the Nile. And she just prayed that he would be safe, that God would protect him. And God did protect Moses. The basket floated safely down the river, and it was picked up by someone pretty unlikely. Someone pretty unlikely. The daughter of the Pharaoh, the same man who had ordered Moses' death, found the basket with baby Moses in it. Now that's another sharp turn. And so although he was born a slave, Moses grew up as royalty, in royalty. He had all the comforts and luxuries of growing up in the palace. He lived like an Egyptian, but Moses always knew that the Hebrew slaves were his true people. And then one day Moses saw one of the Hebrews getting beat by one of the Egyptian soldiers. He was beating the Hebrew slave. And so Moses attacked him. And in this confrontation, Moses ends up killing this soldier. And in a panic, he tries to hide the man's body, but there was witnesses. And so in his confusion, in his shame, and he freaked out, and so he ran, right? In fear, he ran, and he left Egypt, and he escaped to a small town called Midian. And that's yet another sharp turn in Moses' life. And Moses' life was clearly not going according to his plan, I'm sure. But despite a series of unexpected turns, God was still with Moses. So let's watch what happens next. So if you have your Bibles, Exodus chapter 3, we're going to read verses 1 through 11. Exodus chapter 3, we're going to read verses 1 through 11. I'm in the CSB. So here we're going to have Moses' encounter with the burning bush. Meanwhile, Moses was shepherding the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flame of fire within a bush. As Moses looked and he saw that the bush was on fire, but it was not consumed. So Moses thought, I must go over and look at this remarkable sight. Why isn't the bush burning up? When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called him out from the bush. Moses, Moses. Here I am, he answered. Do not come closer, he said. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place you are standing on is holy ground. As he continued, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people in Egypt, and I have heard them crying out because of their oppressors. I know about their sufferings. I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and to bring them from the land to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a territory of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So because the Israelites' cry for help has come to me, and I have also seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them, therefore, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh so that you may lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses asked God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I? And so after a series of sharp turns in Moses' life, I'm going to guess that he's not exactly thrilled about what God is asking him to do. As a matter of fact, we don't have to guess. It's right there if you continue reading the story. It's clear that Moses has no interest in doing God's will and whatever God proposed here. Moses, he tries to think of every possible excuse to try to get out of what God has for him. He would ask question after question. He pointed out that he thought there were flaws in God's plan. He tried to get God to reconsider. But look, I love how God responds, right? Let's skip a couple chapters. Chapter 4, verses 11 through 12. Chapter 4, verse 11 through 12. The Lord said to him, who placed a mouth on humans? Who makes a person mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. And that's got to be pretty powerful. Now Moses tries to tell God that he wasn't ready, that he couldn't handle the unexpected turn that God was trying to make in his life. But God didn't seem to care that Moses didn't feel ready or that Moses didn't feel capable. Instead, God told Moses that he would make him ready and that he would make him capable. He never promised Moses that the journey would be easy. In fact, it's pretty clear that Moses' new assignment would be difficult, and it'd be terrifying and probably painful. But God had told Moses that he would use Moses' situation to help him grow. He would use his situation to help him grow. And so it's funny how different turns of events can happen in our day-to-day lives, right? We look at Moses, and you know, I'm sure he never expected to actually kill that soldier. But God had orchestrated it, and it happened. And so I just kind of want to brag on your teens for a moment, all right? And so a couple weeks ago, we're out here, and we're playing an intense game of kickball, all right? And we're not talking backyard kickball. These kids, when they're playing kickball, it's intense, like camping. It's intense. So we're playing kickball, and then a text message goes out. And so I read my text message, and it says, hey, you know, I'm here at the church kind of cleaning up the inside, want to get it ready for Easter, could really use some help. There's a lot that needs to get done. And so we're out there, we're playing our game, and you know, kids are hooting and hollering and drooling all over themselves. And so I go to my partner in crime, Pastor Steve, and I go, hey, Pastor Steve, I said, read this, what do you think? And he reads my text message, and he's just like, he does, what do you think? I'm thinking we go in there. There's like 30 of us. I'm like, we could get this place clean. I'm like, that's our church. That's their church. I said, they can get this place clean, lickety-split. And so the only way Stephen knows how, he just, hey, stop, come here. Everyone come in. And he flocks them like his little chicks. And they all come running to Pastor Steve. And he's like, all right, hey, we got a need in our church. All right, we got to get that sanctuary. We need to get our grounds ready for Easter. And this is your church. And so I know this is not what you guys were expecting. You guys were expecting here to come, have games and all that. And but right now there's a need. Right, there's a need, and we need to be the blessing to our church. And so we stopped, and you know, to give God praise and honor, and you parents too. Like, I didn't have one complaint from these kids. Matter of fact, I had kids fighting over who was going to vacuum. And so we came in here, we got our working orders. I mean, we had all the chairs straightened out. We had this whole place vacuumed. We had all the garbage that everyone left thrown out, because I love to throw stuff away that you guys leave. So if it's missing, you can blame me. But you know, I'm talking from the grounds outside, all the garbage, the bathrooms. They did it all. And it was awesome, because we want to, how I explained it to them is, we want to try to eliminate distractions for our guests coming in, right? Every week we want to try, how can we eliminate distractions, right? And so one of the easiest ways we can do that is just keeping care of this place, right? That way when they walk in here and they go to use the facilities, they're not distracted by, you know, garbage overflowing in the bathroom or stuff all over this place. We want them, when they come here and they're sitting under Pastor Davis's preaching, and the gospel's going forth, that they don't have to worry about, oh, look at this is out of place, you know, this is out of place, and why is it so dirty, and why is there so many clothes in the pews, and there's no one even sitting there. We strive for excellence, and so it was awesome for them to really come to teens, not, you know, expecting to, you know, have fun and then go through a message and small groups, which we did, but we took that time, and and took care of God's house. And it was awesome. It was awesome to witness that and to sit back and watch them work and take care of this place. But God has the same lessons for us, just like Moses, right? Your life, there's sometimes going to take some unexpected turns, right? Life is going to take some unexpected turns. Sometimes we cause those by our own poor choices, right? Some of the things that we make, the choices that we make. Sometimes it's because of circumstance that are totally out of our control. But in those moments, right, I think God is telling us what he told Moses. It won't be easy, but it's going to help you grow. It won't be easy, but it's going to help you grow. So in those moments, right, when you're at that crossroads, when you're at that junction, remember that God can use your pain to help you grow. And some of you guys have phenomenal stories of great despair and great trials that you've gone through, and you've endured, and you've allowed the Holy Spirit to minister, and you've come out on the other side. And when you give those testimonies, it's powerful, right? I'm always telling our kids, your kids, don't be afraid to tell your story. When you're witnessing to your friends, all you have to do is tell your story, because no one tells your story better than you. No one knows your story better than you. Your own redemptive story. Right? No one can tell it better than you. You guys can't tell my story, just like I can't tell your story. Right? When Pastor gets up and he gives a testimony of what God has allowed him and his family to walk through with Kirsten, I can't tell that story. I cannot relate. But I can tell you what, when he tells that story, there are people in that audience that can relate. God can use your pain to grow you. And so maybe you're at a crossroads here today. Maybe your life isn't the place maybe your life is in a place that you never expected it would be. Maybe you're struggling with your kids, or maybe you're struggling in your marriage, or maybe you're struggling in your job, and it's really, really, really difficult, and you don't know what to do. Perhaps your life has taken so many sharp turns that you just feel so distant and so far away that you feel like your prayers don't even get answered, that God doesn't even hear them. Can I encourage you that you're just not alone? And if you're down, I want you to stay in the fight. Get in the fight if you're not there. Because it's easy when you get beat down and when things get tough, it's easy to just distance yourself. It's easy to just come in here and just sit in the pew and then just walk out and not do anything about the conviction that has happened there and not act on that. It's easy to just come in here because it's church, and what else am I going to do? I've been doing this since, I don't know, forever. I'll be honest, there are times I can walk into this place, stand out back or sit out back, and completely zone out. And then when the service is over, I have no idea what was just brought forth. Because of my own distractions, because life is so noisy, and it's hard to settle down. And so we just, rather than put forth the effort to get busy, it's easier just to sit there and not do anything about it. And so I want to share. This is like my life verse. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Listen, it's not always going to be easy. Right? Life is not always going to be easy. Life is not always going to go according to our plans. Right? Maybe you're at a crossroads with giving. Maybe that's your struggle. You're not sure about giving and not just of your money, but of your time. Right? It can be tough. You know, I always tell Kyle, we'll do something. He's like, well, why don't you do that? I said, because my time is worth more than that. Right? Because we're busy people, right? My life is busy. I own my own business. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I am the director of the student ministry here, which is another job in and of itself. And so I'm very picky about what I'm gonna allow my time to be used for, right? And it can be really easy to get off track doing stuff that is not profitable, you know. And so giving of my time is, you know, that's a big sacrifice for me. And giving of my money, that's, you know, that used to be a really big challenge for me. And so, but I could just let you know that I've sought out wise people when it comes to this, and you can't outgive God. And I've sat down with people that are just, they're generous stewards of all God has given them. And I just started doing it a little bit at a time, and I've just watched God bless my family. I'm not rich, and I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. But my needs are always met. My family is always met. My bills are always paid. But maybe you're at a crossroads with ministry, right? Maybe God's been tugging at your heart to get started in something. Or maybe you're scared because change is on the horizon, and you're not sure what God's going to do, or who's going to fill this, or who's going to fill that, or where do I fit in this place anymore? Right? There are so many areas. I mean, we heard it this morning. We need people to help with our littles, right? We need people that have a heart for children, that want to help teach our young kids. We have a young adult ministry need in this church, right? We have nothing for our young adults right now. And so there's a need. And if you feel called to that, I mean, talk to Pastor, talk to Ron. There are plenty of places. I mean, our grounds, we always need people to help keep this place looking good and staying afloat. And so I want to finish my story that I started about my car accident. And so about sharp turns and again, you know, being kind of that rotten kid. And during that time, you know, as I, you know, had to come face to face with reality and face the things that I wanted to push away and didn't want to deal with because of my own pride, because of my own ignorance. I moved back into the house, and my relationship with my mom was on the mend, and it's been restored. My mom's right there, so I'm not telling you anything that. And so my relationship with my mom was restored, and then through this time, right, through this dark time and just really depressed, I met someone, and that person introduced me to Jesus. And so I believe that I had to be at this place where I was vulnerable and that I was willing to allow people to speak into my life because I didn't know what to do anymore. And so they introduced me to Jesus in a very graceful way. And they just keep telling me about the love and the grace of Jesus and how to be saved. And I didn't quite understand it at first, but then one day in my car, sitting in front of my house, it just clicked. And then right there in my car, I just bowed my head and I asked God to save me. Right? And I can just remember being so excited and jumping and being crazy. I get on the phone and I call him up. I'm like, I just got saved. If that's what you call it, I got saved. I asked Jesus to save me. And they're like, oh, man, this is awesome, right? We got to get you to church. And so this building wasn't even built yet, but they brought me right to this church, right here. And the first person I met was Carrie Ann Chartier, Carrie Wood. So we went to high school together. Now, we tell this story a little different, my interpretation and her interpretation. But all I remember is walking into this place and her looking at me like, what are you doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? Because remember, she remembers we went to high school together, so she knows this crazy Puerto Rican kid walking in the church. She's like, oh boy, I'm letting this kid in here. But I love telling that story because she's like, that's not how it went down, but that's how I remember it. And so I say that to you guys because you could be in a difficult season right now. You could be in a season of confusion and you don't understand why. A season where it is difficult to get up and get going. It's difficult to just really trust in God and trust what He's doing in your life. And just know that you're not alone and God has a plan for that. that you would just rest in the Holy Spirit and trust in Him and press into Him, that you would get involved in a small group and allow community to minister to you. Get in this place, get busy. One of the best things that kind of got me started on my track was being in RU and getting busy. Right? RU changed my life. I answered the call to preach in RU because I was busy. Not that RU is anything special, but I was in a small group before we had the organized small groups that we have now. And I allowed people to minister. I listened to their stories, and once I got comfortable enough, I was able to share my own story. And it will change someone's life. It will change your life. You could be the change that someone needs. And so as I was going through this, and I'm a huge podcast listener, I listen to a lot of podcasts rather than, I try not to listen to too much music when I'm driving because I feel like that's kind of a waste of my time. So I'll put on some sort of business podcast or student ministry podcast, and I like to listen to these things. And so I came across this guy, and I just want to share him with you and talk about how life can take some sharp turns that you never expected. The title is No Reserves, No Retreat, No Regrets. Let me just read this to you. In the early 1900s, a 16-year-old William Whiting Borden graduated from a Chicago high school. He was heir to the Borden fortune. But before he began his Ivy League education at Yale University, his parents sent him on a trip around the world for his graduation present. Earlier in Borden's life, he had come to Christ through the great ministry of D.L. Moody. While on his trip around the world, something happened that no one expected. As Borden traveled through Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, he felt a growing burden for the world's hurting people. Borden wrote a letter to his parents and informed them that he wanted to spend the remainder of his life being a missionary. Upon hearing the news, one of his friends remarked that he would be throwing his life away as a missionary. And upon his return, Borden went on to Yale, and he graduated. And as he studied and graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary, then Borden finished his elite Ivy League education. He boarded a ship for China, and he served as a missionary. To serve as a missionary. Due to his passion to reach the Muslim people, he stopped in Egypt to learn the Arabic language. While he was in Egypt, 25-year-old Borden contracted spinal meningitis, and within a month he was dead. When the news of Borden's death was cabled back to the United States, nearly every major American newspaper reported on it. As stated in his biography, a wave of sorrow went around the world. Not only did he give up his fortune, but he gave himself to be a missionary. Borden had walked away from his wealth and fortune to take the gospel of Jesus to the nations of the world. Most regarded it as a tragedy. However, God took the tragedy and did something far greater than Borden could ever do himself. When thousands of young men and women read Borden's story in the newspaper of America, it inspired them to leave all they had and give their lives to reach the nations with the gospel of Jesus Christ. When Borden's parents were given his Bible, they found the following. Just as he renounced his fortune to go in the mission field, he wrote the words, "No reserves," in his Bible. His father told him that he would have a job in the company. Then at a later point, his father told him that he would never let him work for the company again. At this time, Borden wrote in his Bible, "No retreat." Then they discovered in his Bible these words written shortly before his death in Egypt, "No regret." Was his life a waste? Not from God's perspective. God used his life and death to call thousands and thousands of young men and women to leave all that they had to bring the gospel to the nations. God did greater things through Borden's story than he may have ever done with his life in China. We all can get in a mode of playing it safe in life. We tend to retreat from those things that are hard. When we look back over time, we often have regrets. How will you live your life this week? Live your life with this, with no reserve. Don't hold back this week. Whatever it is or whatever you are facing, don't hold back. Face it. Go for it. No retreat. Don't always choose the easy path. There are times when God's will is not easy. Just like Moses, right? Go forward in what God is leading you to do in life. Do not turn back. Go forward with God. No regret. Do not live cautiously this week. When this week is over, have no regrets. Live life to the fullest. Choose only God's will this week. Live life this week with no reserve, no regret, and no retreat. As the worship team comes up. When life takes a sharp turn, listen, let God grow you. Let God grow you. At some point, your life will take unexpected turns. That turn will probably be painful, but God can turn your pain into progress. So when life gets hard, here's what I want to encourage you to do. Listen, rest in God's presence. Rest in God's presence. Don't try to endure it all alone. Get around God's people. Whenever it's been tough for me, I always want to surround myself with the people that I know love God and that can speak truth into my life. Remember God's promises. He doesn't promise life will be easy, but He does promise He'll be with us. He will be with us. And then lastly, rely on God's preparation. Trust that God can use your pain to prepare you for something bigger. And just like Moses did, God can use your pain to grow you. Those unexpected turns are never fun, but they're often exactly what we need to grow in character, to grow in strength, to grow closer to the God who loves us. Remember, when life takes an unexpected turn, God can use your pain to grow you. Thank you.
Please stand as we sing As the Deer. Father, I thank you for this time, God. I thank you for bringing Brother Angel to this church and his testimony. I pray that you'll just use the words you've given him tonight to reach into our hearts, God. That we will look to you as maybe we are at a crossroads at our life, God. That we will walk by faith and not by sight. And I just thank you for this place, God, and the men of God, men and women of God that have just you've been put here, and we're able to go to maybe in times of heartache, and we can surround ourselves with like-minded people who can speak into our lives, God. I thank you for Emmanuel Baptist Church, just our ability to come here and be that spiritual family. I love you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.